There you go.
Hi, I'm Brenda Orazietti, and I'm nursing faculty with York University. This little mini-series of lectures are presentations for the purpose of our nursing students, for them to understand the different roles nurses play, and to have them enticed and whet their appetite so that maybe once they get some experience, they may consider being employed in some of these various roles. So today I'm here with a friend and colleague, Nurse Karen Bennett, who works for University Health Network, Toronto Western Hospital, in the Neuromedical Surgical Intensive Care Unit. She'll be speaking to you about two roles. She works as a patient care coordinator, which we abbreviate as PCC, and she will also discuss with you her experience working in Northern Ontario. Thank you, Karen, for coming today.
Well, thanks, Brenda. Thanks for having me. Hello, everyone. My name is Karen, as Brenda has said, and I am a registered nurse. I have been for 25 years. I have spent 15 of those years in the critical care area within working in an ICU. Best job ever, by the way. So my role, I would say, or my role right now as a patient care coordinator, it is considered a middle management role. So you should probably recognize it's not a unionized position, which some people may not realize is an out-of-union position, which does change if you're looking for the comforts of being within a unionized environment. You don't have that. But it is also an opportunity to see nursing from a different perspective completely. So coming into a patient care coordinator role, I have the responsibilities of about 200 staff members that you supervise or oversee. As well as I have human resource responsibilities. So there are sometimes conflicts that arise naturally within the work environment, and sometimes you need human resources in order to facilitate an outcome that's a win-win situation for everybody. So we work with human resources. We also work very closely with ONA, which is our bargaining unit within the organization. We also work with occupational health because people get sick. Not only do our patients get sick, but we're human beings ourselves and we get sick as well. And how do we help a worker who wants to come in and work, but probably can't do the job to the best of their ability at the moment? So how do we facilitate that person back into the work environment, which is what everybody wants. We also have, being responsible for 200 staff, I'm not the only patient care coordinator. We have two patient care coordinators here because it is a lot of staff to look after and manage. A lot of my role as well, responsibility as well, has to do with conflict resolution. So you're learning how to deal with conflict, whether that is between staff members sometimes it can be between families and staff, sometimes it's families and families, sometimes it's the patient and staff, sometimes it's just the dynamics of the patient's diagnosis or disease process. It's not necessarily something that they are doing themselves, but people get upset, people get agitated, and part of my role is to help manage that conflict and find a win-win situation for everyone. Another part of my role as well is we do a lot of quality projects or research projects. So within our unit we have a lot of different research projects, and they can be locally, things within the unit that other nurses see and say, you know what, I see a gap. Brenda, for example, your educator has actually found a gap within our unit itself, something that she sees that is missing, and she's actually formulated a research question and she's put forward a proposal that says this is a gap that I see in my working environment, and I'd like to get a team together and see how we can solve that or come up with a conclusion so that it's better for the patients in the end, better for the patients, better for the staff. And so we have a lot of quality improvement projects that we do here, and part of my role is to be a part of those projects or supervise those projects. And it's a nice aspect actually when you're thinking about nursing and thinking that you can do research right within the walls. You don't need to have specifically a big research background. I mean, I took research back in university. It was probably that much of what I learned, but when you're actually hands-on, and there's a lot of support here within the organization to help you actually walk through and go through the process of how I do a research project if I want to. And sometimes the projects become bigger than just the unit. You recognize that actually it's not just my unit, but it actually affects another unit, or it affects a different unit, or an outside unit as well. So it can grow into something else much more interesting. A lot of those are different quality initiatives that we have. We also have, there's major everyday things. Hand hygiene is huge. As you've probably learned going through school, that washing your hands, the first thing you learn, is so important not to spread that infection. And so we're constantly working with not just nurses, but all staff, patients, family, visitors, and being conscious about washing our hands so as not to spread infection to other people. Well, my roles, there's unit specific, I would say. There are program specific roles, and then there's corporate, you can say corporate roles that you have as well, which is even the larger picture. An example of a corporate role, I was a part of the Goals and Objectives Committee. And the Goals and Objectives Committee is University Health Network, Toronto Western Hospital. As an organization, it's a business, and they have goals that they plan to target and meet each year. And every unit within the hospital has specific goals for their unit that they want to meet. Once a year, we put on, it's a one-day event, I guess, a one-day event where every single unit comes together to say, what have we done this year? Did we actually meet the goals that we planned? And what are our new goals going forward? So I was a part of that organizing committee to actually help put on the event, to help all the units get together. And those are more corporate initiatives. There are program-specific initiatives. And being in the ICU, we actually service all the programs within the hospital. So you can work on different program initiatives that are specific, and then there's the unit-specific initiatives, being critical care, that you can work on. And then some things, I mean, at the end of the day, there's some things that of any job that you do that you really enjoy, and there's some things that, you know, not as much fun to do, but that's life in general. And I think if you're aware and you recognize, you know what, I really like doing this aspect of my job, and there are some aspects, maybe I don't love it, but it still comes with the job. So, you know, spend 80% of your time, if you can, doing the things that you really enjoy, and the parts that you don't maybe enjoy, figure out how you can learn to do them better, is what I say. And that makes the day and actually the job much more enjoyable. Usually if it's not enjoyable, sometimes I feel it's actually a skill perhaps that you're really lacking, and you need to work on that skill. And you realize that once you work on that skill, it actually becomes enjoyable, and you've actually bettered yourself in the end because of it. So within my job, I think as patient care coordinator, that's about it. The role itself was actually designed as a stepping program to manager. So if you wanted to become a manager, it was within the organization a way of growing their own individuals to step up and then become manager. So it's a great position because you don't have all the responsibilities of a manager, but you do get to see the organization from a different perspective. And recognizing that it is a business, it really is a business, and our business is health and individuals. Our product is a human being. It's not paper, it's not a chair, it's actually a human being. And it's really neat to see how, at an organizational level, how we work to make sure that this one human being who passes through our life for a very short period is going to be impacted by what we say or what we do, and how that makes such a huge difference on their life. The other part, I guess, my qualifications, that's right, qualifications. So in order to do this, in order to be a patient care coordinator, you need to have your degree, absolutely, it's a minimum. Currently, they're actually pushing for master's prepared. So to be a manager, you need to have your master's. So when I first started in this role, one of the first things was when you're getting your master's, Karen. And that caught my breath because I thought, let me get the job down first, please. Let me understand the role. But it is an expectation as a patient care coordinator that you will at some point go back to school, if you haven't already done so, and actually obtain your master's, with the goal in mind, as the organization has, that you want to be a manager at some point down the road. So it makes sense. And actually working on your master's puts the education of what you're actually doing into, it gives you theory, I guess, the theory part of what you're actually doing, so you can put it into context. And so I've been started working on my master's recently, with the hopes of finishing in 2017.
Wonderful.
Skill set, you have to have leadership skills. You have to have leadership skills. Besides having the paperwork piece of it, you need to have good leadership skills. You need to have good organizational skills. You need to have good people skills helps as well. Like I said, I was a bedside nurse for